We Have Issues is a weekly podcast full of reviews of comics and oversharing. We use grown-up language to make very childish jokes. You can find the show at wehaveissues.net, as well as anywhere else where average to not too bad podcasts can be found. What's happening? What's going on? What's going on then? These don't really start, do they? I just so far just kind of segue into it. It's fine.
Just drifted in.
We're coming to you, listener, from Plague City, Southampton.
In from the wind and the rain and autumn.
It's horrible. It looks sunny, and then you go out, and it's just a trick because the rain gets you.
It's nice, though. I like it being autumn. I'm not so keen on all the rain, but I'm looking forward to winter.
The reason I say it's Plague City... See, you confused me, Jane, because you came in and you were coughing, but it was because you choked yourself on a...
Either cracker or crisp, I can't remember what it was. It was something I ate before I left work, and I was talking to someone, and I breathed and chewed and swallowed at the same time, and it went a bit wrong.
You should never breathe and chew and swallow at the same time.
Yeah,
That's something they should teach you at school.
Yeah. Also, eating a fruit pastel and trying to talk to your manager when your fruit pastel somehow manages to stick all of your teeth together is not a good thing to do either.
No, that sounds awful.
It wasn't pleasant. It made people laugh, though. So,
speaking of work food, not that any of my colleagues listen to this, I'm assuming, but I really wish people had stopped leaving biscuits and stuff out on the side where in the shared biscuit and cake area. I wish they'd stop leaving stuff there without putting some sort of cover or twisting it up, because you think that there's a half packet of chocolate digestives or something there, and what you actually get is the top three are horribly soggy because they've been there for a week and no one's done anything about them.
I hate it when people in the office leave one thing. So there's obviously 2 brownies left in a box. So they only have one. I'm talking bite-sized brownies. People can quite easily have 2 bite-sized brownies. What's wrong with that last one? And nobody will eat the last one because it's just been there, and people are like, what's wrong with that thing that nobody wants to eat? It really drives me insane. So if there's one of anything, I go batshit at people about it. Just eat it!
How do people react to that?
They think it's funny and then decide not to eat. I'm like, it's for your own benefit, guys. It's just going to get thrown away.
It's Plague City. The reason I feel like it's Plague City is I don't feel very well. My wife doesn't feel very well. You were only choking on something that you put in your mouth and tried to swallow and breathe at the same time. So that's slightly different, but it gave me the sense of plaguiness. And Forbidden Planet, which is our local comic shop, I went there at lunchtime today to get my comics, and their whole comic section downstairs is shut at the moment because basically there's a disease going around the staff there, and there aren't enough staff members to keep it open during the lunch periods.
Disease?
Yeah, I get the impression that what's happening is a couple of them will be ill, and then because everyone's got this hand-to-mouth existence and is really worried about having too much sick time and stuff like that, they end up coming back while they've still kind of got it, and then they give it to people who are there, and then those people come down with it, and then they come back before they're quite well enough, and I think there's a cycle of disease going on there.
Oh, that sounds awful. Disease.
Either that, or at some point when they had their whole basement shut because there was a flood down there, and it's possible that some pestilence has come up from the sewers and is infecting them.
Nice.
Some diseased demonic force.
I haven't been there in ages, and I was going to go this weekend. I think I might skip it until next week.
I'm sure they'll have enough staff there at the weekend.
Oh, no, I'm thinking about the
pestilence?
plagues. Yeah, I don't want to get that.
No.
It's bad enough everyone panicking about Ebola.
Yeah, I feel like we've done the Ebola thing. Didn't we?
Nah, it's still going on.
Weren't we terrified of Ebola a few years ago? And didn't we just assume that it wasn't going to make it over?
It probably will be the same, but now that someone British and somebody American's had it, it becomes real news for us, I guess, doesn't it? Well, doesn't matter about all the thousands of people that have already died from it. It's Westerners that have been affected now, so we're interested again.
That really bothers me because of all the diseases, it is one of the most gross. Definitely one of the most gross and terrifying.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. I think you have a 50-50 survival rate, but with our healthcare systems, we have a higher survival rate.
Yeah.
So it would be very extremely horrible and unpleasant to have, but we are more likely to survive it.
I don't want to be puking out my insides through all of my pores. That doesn't appeal to me.
No, me either. Don't lick. People are infected with it.
I don't know whether I'm more worried about Ebola than I am about scary devil girls with dark eyes. Have you seen that? One of our tabloids here in the UK, The Star, I believe, that were really on top of the whole deadly spiders thing earlier in the year, or last year, or whenever it was, are now really, really preoccupied with weird devil girl children with dark eyes. Every cover I've seen, because where at work there's a newsagent, and I quite often go past and look at the papers and read the headlines on all of them, make myself angry enough that I don't have to buy any of them. And the Star is always good for a laugh because they get really obsessed about things, and at the moment it's weird devil girl children with dark eyes.
What? So just little girls with dark eyes?
Ghosts. The suggestion is they're little ghost girls, I think.
What?
I don't know. It's one of those stories that I kind of get the feeling I prefer looking at it out the corner of my eye and chuckling, and if I read too much about it, I'd just be like, well, this isn't even a stupid story. This is just not a story.
Is it the 1560s again? Is that what's happened?
The 1560s?
Yeah. You know, with ghosts and witches and stuff.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe they're just stuck in a time warp.
Maybe. The Star might be stuck in a time warp. That is a very good point. I can't remember what I was going to say. It was something about plague. No, I'm done. I'm done on the whole plague thing. By the way, listener, we have issues. We are a podcast about comics. We talk about comics. We haven't talked about any comics. You could be forgiven for thinking that we are a podcast about
ghosts and plagues.
Yeah, and weird, like, askance conversations about work that we can't really commit to because we don't want to get into trouble and stuff like that. But no, we are a podcast about comics, and we will be doing that in a minute. This is the third episode. You can listen to the previous two episodes at the website, which is wehaveissues.net. You can also talk to us on Twitter. I'm Nick Sight.
I'm Cover Jane.
And there's an account for the podcast itself, which is Issues Pod. Issues Pod. Nobody really says issues.
Issues.
But now that I've got it in my head, I said it last week, and now I'm just stuck on it.
Issues.
I think very posh ladies.
Issues. I think issues might be the way of saying it, but issues is the way everyone says it.
Yeah. It's spelled ISSUES.
Is this like the whole schedule and schedule thing?
Well, that's an American English thing, isn't it? Does anyone say issues?
Issues. Well, you sounded a bit German then.
Sorry.
Issues.
A very specific sort of German, circa 1950s.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not a Nazi German. Not.
That's good to know.
Not at the moment.
Oh dear, why you got a swastika then?
And why do I feel so compelled to mention it? No one had suggested it before. Yeah, so you can contact us on Twitter, issuespod, and also at issuespod@gmail.com. There are full show notes for every episode. That's something we do. We're very diligent about. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher and anywhere else where there are podcasts that you can subscribe to at. There's a thing, you can subscribe to the RSS on them, and it's great. If you do use iTunes specifically, I mean, you can rate and review us anywhere, but if you do use iTunes at all, we would be really grateful if you rated and reviewed us if you like us, or even if you don't like us, but feel we're plucky and you want to support the fact that we're at least trying.
Then you can leave 3 stars instead of 5.
Yeah. Just, although 3 stars might be the worst sort of review, because, I think, 5 stars is like 5 or 4 stars. That means you really like it. And 1 and 2 stars means you've just had a reaction against it that might be about quality. It might just be that you don't get on with it.
I think you should probably email into the show so Nick can review what you're going to put on first, and then he'll give you some constructive criticism, and then you can decide what you're going to put on there from there.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yep.
We are a relatively young podcast, so any reviews you do leave and any sharing of us you do with other people. Do. You should consider it your duty. Duty. You should consider it your duty to do the reviews and talk to your friends about us. Because it's really good for a young podcast to get a bit of a boost. In the last week or so, we have had some friends of the show. I say they're friends of the show. They're basically people I harassed into recording us some stuff. But there have been a couple of special supplemental episodes that have gone out where people I really like online who made the mistake of being nice to me at some point, I sent them an email and said, could you please just do us a little bit of audio that we can put out as a little promotional thing for the show. These should only be, you'll only need to talk for a couple of minutes and it'll be nice. I'll give you a few questions you can answer and you can take a couple of minutes to talk about some comics and it'll be nice and we'll put it out and it'll be like little 5-minute episodes that can draw people to us who might stick around. And it'll be no effort for you, and it's fine, and it'll be great, and it won't, and the people who already listen to the podcast, it won't be a big deal for them because they're only 5-minute episodes. People really like talking about comics, it turns out.
That's good.
No, it's really good. But what we basically ended up with and ended up putting out are actually quite substantial, really nice, bits of audio where people say really nice things. Not about us. Just say really nice and clever things about comics, which is kind of great.
So you set the bar and the expectation quite low and people exceeded it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Which is always nice when it turns out that way.
Absolutely.
It doesn't happen very often. But I did only pick really good people. So that's probably why.
The elite.
Yeah. So there are 3 of these now. Hopefully there'll be a few more in the near future. The amazing Ellen Starbuck, who is kind of a bit of a hero of mine because she used to be in a band I really like. And she when she was there, she did these, she made videos of the band, which are kind of, I didn't realize this until later, but they're kind of what drew me to the band Los Campesinos was her videos that were posted online. They were quite fun and nice looks behind the scenes of what was going on with the band, and I really liked them. And she left the band to concentrate on writing, and since then she's like written loads of things I really like, but she's also ended up making a short film. And recently she decided, I think she only decided about a few months ago, that she was going to do a one-woman show about Jean-Luc Picard.
Oh, okay.
And she actually did that the other week around the same time as I was editing, like snipping the ends off the audio that she sent. Her and her partner did a really long episode. So there's a 40-minute thing from them. They were drinking gin while they were doing it. So Ellen Starbuck talks about comics, or Ellen Starbuck has issues. Cy Spurrier, the amazing comic writer Cy Spurrier, who's also a very lovely chap, battled through Con Crud to record us something, and said some things that I really liked because I kind of agreed with them about V for Vendetta. I always like it when people say things clever that are notionally in agreement with what I think, because it's like, wow, I must be quite clever if this clever person thinks this.
Clever by association?
Yeah. I think that's good enough, isn't it?
Something like that.
And so he said some stuff about comics, some of which was about V for Vendetta. He talked about other comics as well, but said some really clever stuff about the actual medium that I hadn't really considered before. And just last night, another one went up from Akira the Don, who is a rap superstar, who is in the process of moving from Britain to America, and took some time out to record us something. He swears a lot, listener, but he says some quite smart things as well. He swears a lot. He uses a word on there that we never ever use.
Oh dear.
But I think he's quoting from somewhere, so it's okay.
Okay.
There are spoilers for The Walking Dead in both Ellen's and Akira's. I'm not sure what specifically it is about The Walking Dead that drew them to it. But so yeah, go and listen to those. Those are great. I really like them anyway. And so that's something that happened this week. I think that's all that happened this week. I've been audio editing every single night this week, Jane.
You're like some audio editing. Oh, I've got nothing.
Monster.
Wizard.
I don't know if maybe I just can't be bothered to talk to my wife at the moment, so I'm audio editing. That can't be right. I really like her. She's awesome. She's patient is the most important thing. Before we start talking about comics, we should let Kehaar talk about comics. He's going to talk to us about a Batman book called Cacophony.
Hello, Isheries. Kehaar here from Dissecting World. We've added washing machine sound effects. This time I'm going to discuss Batman Cacophony by Kevin Smith in big bold letters, and also some people doing the actual drawing. That is Walt Flanagan on pencils, and Sandra Hope on inker, and Guy Major on colours. Not to forget, of course, Jared K. Fletcher on lettering. So this is a Batman story. It basically features the Joker getting out of Arkham because of it's not even a Mexican standoff, a standoff between Deadshot and the villain Cacophony, which I believe is a Kevin Smith creation. This results in a gang war with Maxi Zeus, because Maxi Zeus is using Joker venom to cut a designer drug. Naughty, naughty Greek god wannabe. But this is all a plot by Cacophony to draw Batman into the open, because he's a mask killer. He targets high-end human superheroes with no actual powers, because let's face it, it's pretty hard to take down Superman. The story's effective. It's full of snappy Kevin Smith dialogue that could have been annoying, but it is kind of appropriate given the tone of the story. You know, he writes a good Joker. I think if you were reading an extended run as opposed to a limited run, it would probably get quite tiresome. The plot twists are effective. There's a nice payoff in the end when we see Cacophony's secret identity, as it were, with him having failed in his mission to dispatch the Bat. It raises some kind of philosophical points about the relationship between Batman and the Joker, which have been echoed in Dark Knight Returns and also in The Killing Joke. So that's interesting. I'm not sure it adds anything wildly new, but the scenes that are portrayed in the dialogue in them are compelling and feel true to the characters, although, as I might have said on Dissecting Worlds recently, there's a different Batman for everyone, so that might not be the same for all the audience. But overall, I enjoyed it, and it was a good loan from Wirral Library Service. So until next time, this is Kehaar from Dissecting Worlds, sounding off.
Okay, that was good. That's done. We've got that out of the way.
Yes.
Sounds ungrateful. I might cut all this.
Sounds ungrateful?
I sounded ungrateful.
Oh, you didn't sound ungrateful.
Oh, okay.
He looks ungrateful. No, he looks grateful, listener. Sorry, not ungrateful. He looks grateful. He's doing a face that says, I'm grateful.
Ungrateful.
Ungrateful. Ungrateful.
Oh, Jane, you love Adventure Time, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I'll have to share this with you. I think I already shared it on the Facebook page for... there is a Facebook page for this, for We Have Issues, and a Tumblr, which I haven't done anything with yet, and various other things. But there's an Adventure Time. There's a group of people who do like these real gritty reboot things on YouTube. I haven't watched any of the others, but they've done them of a few different things. And they did one of Adventure Time where they're all like people in outfits doing all of the things.
I haven't. I am aware of this, but I haven't seen it. It looked a bit scary.
It is a bit scary, but it's so good. That's like Adventure Time. It's as scary as Adventure Time.
Oh, but Adventure Time's a cartoon. A cartoon can't hurt you. Real things can.
No, that's true. Real things on a screen are dangerous.
They are dangerous.
I think that's why my wife doesn't like Muppets.
Because they're real.
Because they're real things.
You've cracked it. You've
Definitely.
cracked it.
Should we talk about comics?
Yes, let's.
I know we both read some comics. As I said earlier on, our local comic shop wasn't available for me to shop at this lunchtime, so I had to go on to Comixology and buy stuff there. I don't think I've really gone into it here before, but I don't like reading comics digitally. Doesn't feel right.
I'm getting used to it, but I prefer the real thing.
Yeah, I prefer the real thing in all things.
So you don't like Sunny D then?
No, Sunny D can go... Is Sunny D still... Can you still get it?
Yes.
You mean Sunny Delight, right?
Yes.
I don't like it. I think I'm old enough that it wasn't around when I was a kid, so it just seems like this weird alien thing designed to rot children's teeth.
And turn you orange.
Does it do that?
That's that. It was off the market for a little while because it kept turning children orange because parents were like, oh, this is really good for my child. And they like it. Oh, I'll just give them lots of it. And then it turned them orange.
Like spontaneously?
And rotted their teeth. Over time. And it was to do with one of the food colourings in it. And it was changing the pigment of their skin.
I'm getting a sense from something you just said that it took quite a lot of Sunny D to make this happen.
Yeah.
So actually, it's really the parents who are to blame.
Yeah.
Because if you give children any number, as I understand it with children, if you give them anything in excess, they start to become that thing.
Yes.
So parents shouldn't do that. That's immoral.
But they thought it was good. They thought they were giving them lots of good things, but they really weren't.
Well, as long as their intentions were good, eh? So anyway, I bought a couple of comics. There's a bit of a theme to the comics I bought this week. I did buy Avengers and X-Men Axis, #1, but I'm not going to talk about that because I think maybe I need to spend a bit more time with it than I had, is my diplomatic way of saying I didn't really enjoy it very much.
Ah.
The art's really nice.
But you need to reread the story.
Probably, yeah. Maybe I need to get up to speed on what's going on at Marvel at the moment.
Was the fact that it was digital, do you think that may have hindered it, or...?
Yeah, I think maybe that's it. So I'll wait until I can read it in physical form.
Give it a second chance in a different form.
Yeah. The other thing about Comixology, actually, is... And you've talked about buying stuff on Comixology before, but the thing I hadn't really reckoned with is when you go to the site and you're trying to pick you're trying to get the latest stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas I always find that quite a relaxing experience when I go into a shop. Mm-hmm. There's so much stuff, and so much of it is cheap.
A lot of self-published stuff on there, a lot of indie stuff you wouldn't have access to in your local comic book store. And you're right, it's just like, oh man, where do I even start to pick something?
It's kind of nerve-wracking.
Those little 69p comics that look really good. You think, oh my god, I want to see what that's all about. And as soon as you know you've already got 5 of those and you're thinking, well, this wasn't as cheap as I thought it was going to be.
69p's really mount up.
Yes,
those
they
69s. Sorry. I'm sorry. That was lame. The first comic I'm going to talk about is, well, no, it's not the first comic, so I just talked about Access, but the second comic I'm going to talk about, that I'm going to talk about properly, Sabrina, #1, from...
Yeah, I saw this and it piqued my interest.
From Archie? It's confusing.
Oh, okay. Well, if you hit the eye, it will show you all the information of the comic.
I'll work out where the eye is and everything will be okay. Oh my god, I've switched on guided view. I hate this. This is not my beautiful life. This is not my beautiful house. I'm just trying to go back through the thing. This is another reason why I don't really like digital comics, and I'm sure there are ways around it, but the way I read everything is I've got a really bad memory, and so when a character gets introduced or something, I tend to have to stick my finger in the page because I'll forget their name and who they are really, really quickly. So I have to, whenever a new element is introduced, I have to be able to flick backwards and forwards to them. Anyway, that's not an interesting story. That's just a story.
That's Nick's interesting way of reading things.
Yeah, it's a story of my reading dysfunction. I've been doing it for 41 years and I'm still no better at it. Anyway, Sabrina. I'm not sure how much canon matters in the Archie universe. How much continuity really matters. Certainly, I can't tell if this fits with... I don't think Afterlife with Archie, which is excellent, is intended as being in continuity because loads of characters who are prominent and still in the other books die in it from being eaten by zombies and stuff. And this... Sabrina does make an early appearance in that, but this doesn't seem to tie in with that. This seems to be an origin story about Sabrina. And it goes back to like the 1950s or something.
Okay.
And it's telling the story of her. It's a period piece. It deals with, not her being born, but her being a baby. Her mother was human. Her father was a warlock. And the witches all come to take her away at her first birthday or when she's a few months old or something, because that's what witches do. And the mother freaks out and says, "No, you can't take her," and runs away. And so then the witches punish her and she gets driven mad. So there's this really dark story that doesn't really fit with what we all know about Sabrina the Teenage Witch, as played by Melissa Joan Hart on the TV show. All of the characters are the same. So she's there, her two aunts are there.
Salem there?
And Salem's there, and he's pretty cool. He's not as sarcastic. He is quite sarcastic, actually. And there are hints to his dark past the way they are in the TV show as well. But he's definitely got her back. He's definitely looking out for her.
I'm trying to remember her aunt's name. Zelda.
One Zelda and
Lilith?
I'm not sure, and I already know that if I try and
Begins
find
with an
it,
H? No, don't worry about it. Okay.
I'll just lose it.
Yeah, it's fine.
So yeah, it's dealing with the first few years of her life. It's dealing with what happens to her father, who obviously was a bit of a rebel for having a child with a normal human. Anyway, the witches seem, as an organisation, seem quite merciless and very ruthless. This is actually written by Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa, who I think is the chap who wrote Afterlife of Archie, and it's got a similar feel of it feels like Afterlife of Archie still feels like it honours the tone of the Archie comics. This feels like it honours the era that it's set in, which is 1950s, 60s and 70s.
Okay.
We're seeing Sabrina as a teenager. She's only 13 or 14 when this issue finishes. And we're seeing her dealing with having powers, not really knowing how to deal with them. She doesn't get on very well at the witchy school because the kids there are quite cruel about her being half human. And it turns out she's really powerful. So her aunts take her to, I guess, Riverdale, which is where all the other Archie comics are set. So it's talking about how they end up there, why they end up there. And it is quite, all of the characters are written pretty well, but Sabrina in particular is written quite well as this teenage girl who really just kind of wants to be a teenage girl, but doesn't know what happened to her parents and still kind of hopes that nice things happen to her parents, even though we know as a reader that isn't the case. It's really good. Afterlife of Archie is great. This feels really different considering it's written by the same person. It feels very much like a period piece, but it's also great. It isn't sickly sweet the way the Sabrina TV series is, but then that's obviously not their intention.
That was ever going to happen.
Robert Hack, who I've never seen his art before, but he does the art in this, and it's got this almost sepia-toned colour scheme. It looks quite painterly, and it really seems to honour the era that this is set in terms of it looking a lot like the old creepy comics and the old horror comics of that time. Really washed out, very classic illustration and stuff like that. It doesn't look much like any other comics I've read recently because it does have that very old-fashioned style to it. There are moments in it that are straight out of films like Rosemary's Baby and stuff like that. There's some quite scary iconography in it. And it doesn't flinch from the scary stuff at all. It's weird. Again, like Afterlife of Archie, I've often wondered what sort of conversations are happening behind the scenes at Archie in terms of how worried they are about alienating this, because their comics have always been traditionally quite wholesome. They're the comics that conservative parents in the US know that they can, and religious parents in the US know that they can let their children read without it ruffling any feathers. So these comics are very different from that. It's quite scary without being that graphic a lot of the time. It's not like a Vertigo comic or something like that. It's really good.
Good.
It's really, really good. Lots of stuff going on in the woods, though.
Well,
which associates quite closely with witchy stuff, doesn't it? Speaking of witches, I'm going to let you talk about this mainly because I've already talked quite a lot, but I read Wytches written by Scott Snyder, who is your main man, isn't he?
He is my main man.
I should have realised you'd read this.
Yeah.
With amazing art by Jock. But
it is incredible, yeah.
I haven't read all that much sequential work by Jock. I've seen his covers lots, but
no, I haven't. I think this is pretty much the first thing I've read of his that is sequential art and not just a cover. His covers are incredible. They really are. They're infamous, actually. You quite often see it popping up in all sorts of areas. There was one cover he did of Batman with the Joker sort of fading out, and it was pixelated into bats, I think it was.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen
on
that.
a white background. That gets
you see it everywhere.
It is everywhere. He is really iconic. His art's really iconic. Yes, Wytches issue 1, which has had quite the hype on social media.
We've seen a lot of it. Yeah,
yes.
Definitely.
Being the month of Halloween, it's unsurprising that these books are coming out, and my God, are we happy that they're coming out. Wytches issue 1, as Nick said, written by Scott Snyder and art by Jock, published via Image, it's about witches, but we don't know how it's going to be about witches.
Yeah.
It starts off in the past, and someone's been pledged, and we don't really know. I don't know much about witch folklore. I think it's more of a thing in the States than it is over here. But I don't know what pledged actually meant. And I didn't really want to look it up. I just wanted to kind of see how it went. It doesn't seem like being pledged is very nice at all. It seems pretty horrific. It is unflinchingly sort of harsh.
It's quite horrific. The imagery in it's quite gross.
It's yes, it is quite it's harsh. It's just like, wow, that just really happened, and it keeps going on, and it fits in with the story. But we sort of set out in the past to sort of set the scene for the book, and then we're brought into the I presume is the present day, and we meet the Rocks family, who have moved to it's the present day. The Rocks family, who have moved recently and setting at home, and we meet the daughter, Sailor, and she's getting a bit of a pep talk from her father. She seems very scared and nervous of her first day of school, but it seems like there's something that's happened in her past which she's worried that people are going to know about. It doesn't, it is later on, there's more explained later on in the book as to what's happened, and you can understand why she'd be so apprehensive about it, but you don't, there's this real supernatural feeling already to herself, and the things she's affecting. It tells a lot, but doesn't give very much away in this first issue. Yeah. And as always, Scott Snyder's writing is just incredible. You just, as soon as you finish reading it, you want the next part, and you get annoyed that you have to wait another month for it. And Jock's art's incredible. And the colouring is great as well. It's just perfect for this type and tone of story. It's really, like I said, it's not for the faint-hearted. If you're quite squeamish or you're not really keen on quite sort of graphically violent scenes, and it perhaps isn't the book for you, but it does it in good taste.
Yeah, Jock's art's quite it's very, there's lots of movement in it, and it's quite expressionistic. So even the gore it's not like a really finely detailed work where you see every little bit of gore and sliciness and stuff, but it's still quite... Yeah,
it fits in, like I said, with the tone. So, if the scene's frantic, then it suits that kind of frantic behaviour that's happening. You get that sense of movement, like you said, actually. Yeah, you really do. Yeah, it's brilliant. If you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend this. It wasn't very much at all. I got it in Comixology at £1.99.
Yeah, it's very cheap.
Good value, very good value for money. I don't know how long the series is going to be.
I don't know very much about that at all, actually.
I don't think it's going to be limited edition. I think it's, going to be ongoing for the foreseeable future. But yeah, I can't wait to read more. It was brilliant. Did you enjoy it, Nick?
I loved it. It's worth mentioning the colorist is Matt Hollingsworth, who is one of those names that always comes up with Geordie Belair and Dave Stewart. In terms of, you always notice the color on the books that they color. That sounds lame, but you know what I mean. it's a really, really gorgeous book. I don't always get on with Scott Snyder because there's certainly with American Vampire and with his Batman stuff, there's a lot more focus on mythology than I can normally be bothered with. But I really like the way this flows. It's really nice.
Whereas I love that about his writing. I really like the detail, I like background. I just like that attention because I'm that kind of person. So I like being fed that information. That's sort of really what I thrive on. So that's why I really enjoy his work so much. And I do blindly follow him into whatever he's doing next.
Well, this is, I mean, it pays off for you though, doesn't it?
I've not been disappointed yet. So I'm onto a winner.
And this is much more my sort of thing because it's more of a character piece and there are themes there of this family that's you don't know through most of the book what it is they're running away from, but there's this tension of none of them knowing whether or not whatever it is they've left behind is going to follow them.
There is no sense. There's like there's an almost sense of relief. They're assuming crash positions still. It doesn't seem like they're relaxed a bit more, but there is that tension throughout the whole story between, in every character, including Sailor and her mum and her dad. So that was quite nice. That's already built for you and it just continues building for this first issue. So you do have that end, even though there's not any, you have that tension and that, what's going to happen next, sort of feeling.
It's very weird reading it just after reading the Sabrina comic as well, though, because although they look very different and they're written, the tone of them's very different. The Sabrina book's much more dense because it's about her early life and it's moving through the years. They're obviously because they're both about witches. They're both set in small towns with heavy brooding woods that nobody likes to go into very much around them. They're both about young girls who've moved to a new town, but you're not sure how much of their life is going to follow them, and they're still going to have to deal with high school, which in itself is quite horrifying and stuff like that. It was interesting. They're so different and yet so similar. And because it's witches, even some of the imagery, some of the tree-based imagery is very similar in both of them, which is quite interesting and probably a very American thing.
I suppose that's something you associate with witches. It is, that imagery is something that's conjured when you think about a witch in the woods and, the whole Hansel and Gretel right through to the, the horrendous Blair Witch Project. Yeah. That imagery is it does go hand in hand with witches. So,
do you mean horrendous or do you mean horrific? You mean horrendous, don't you? About the Blair Witch Project. Did you not like the Blair Witch Project is what I'm asking.
It was just rubbish.
It wasn't that interesting.
And I watched the second one, and the second one had this whole thing about like little Easter eggs that are placed in it.
Actual Easter eggs? Or?
No, not actual Easter eggs, the whole
like little things.
Which I didn't even notice. And I had this on, my dad got it on VHS from the library for me. I don't know. I must have asked, he would not have got that for me if I didn't ask for him. I was old enough to watch it, I think. If you had to be 18, then I wasn't. And
I think you had to be, but don't worry about that.
My dad was definitely over 18 when he borrowed it from their library. So all is okay. And it wasn't scary. But I remember at the end of the video, you had to, on videos, any extras just continued straight on from the film. And it actually had to show you these Easter eggs. I was like, I didn't notice any of this. And to be fair, I don't care about any of this. It was a terrible film. You're not distracting me from how much of a terrible film it was by showing me there was a symbol on the door I didn't see. I just thought, what a waste of your time. Why don't you invest that in making a better film? But, yes, anyway. And even in second Blair Witch, they had the whole, forest woods image. Well, not forest woods.
Creepy woods.
Yeah, it is specifically woods, isn't it? But that is the whole, you can't see through the woods and there's no daylight, that kind of creepy, anything could be around the corner.
We don't have many woods like that. We've got the New Forest, which can be a bit creepy, but is mainly you just have to worry about accidentally standing in some horse shit.
I grew up near where my mum lives is actually near a set of woods, 2 sets of woods actually that are very similar to ones that you may or may not find witches in.
Oh.
Yeah. We used to play games where you pretended there were witches in the woods when we were younger as well. So
I do not like the sound of that.
It was kind of fun, I guess. Well, as long as you're not really being chased by witches, it's okay.
No. What else? What else did you have?
This week I also got Birthright issue 1. This is also from Image, and it's written by Joshua Williamson, who also wrote Nailbiter, which I really enjoy.
Oh yeah.
And Andrei Bressan, who has done the art. I'd not come across him before. I don't think. It's not a name I'm familiar with.
Doesn't ring any bells.
This book actually inspired parts of my dream last night.
Oh.
I know. It's really unusual for me to dream about a comic. I dream about all sorts of crap. But, some of it I just don't even bother telling people about because they'll just look at me in that way. And
other people's dreams are a bit like that anyway. That's probably not your fault.
Oh, no, I don't mean in a bored way, in a kind of
freaked out way.
Yeah, why are you here? You should be somewhere else getting
hospitalised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, they move a bit away from you anyway. So I don't dream about comics very often. So I really, really enjoyed it, and I was quite surprised at how much it had entered into my subconscious, to the point where it inspired parts of my dreams last night. Anyway, Birthright is about a little boy who goes missing on his birthday. Mm-hmm. He goes missing. He's playing, again, there's woods. There are woods there. It's a theme.
Woods? What is it with woods? It's woods. Like, I'd never seen a wood.
These are creepy woods as well. There's creepy eyes in this woods and all sorts of stuff. There are all sorts of stuff in this woods that we find out.
I feel like before yesterday, I hadn't ever seen a wood. And now they just seem to be everywhere.
Oh, you can't see the wood through the trees?
Something like that. That'll do. It's fine.
And he's at the park with his dad, and they're throwing a surprise birthday party here for him. He's only little. He's about 5 or 6 years old. Doesn't know anything about his party, and it's going to be amazing. And his older brother's helping his mum set things up, and his mum's talking to his dad. And, he doesn't suspect anything. And his dad's playing catch with him, and he's gone to retrieve the ball. A lot of time goes past, and then his dad's this is too long, so he's trying to find him, and he's actually gone missing. And in the weeks, months that precede that, there is the book is quite dense, but it's quite fast, but it's well paced, extremely well paced, because cramming a lot of information in. You see his father being accused of killing him, and slowly the mum and dad's relationship break down, and it's horrible. It's everything you could ever imagine would happen with a missing child. It's really, really horrible. And, his dad's forever trying to defend himself. They're still, a year later, they're still putting up posters for the missing child, and the older brother's getting stick because people are like, oh, you're bringing us down, stop doing this. We all know your dad killed himself. Like, it's horrible, really, really horrible situation. Then the parents and the son are summoned to the police station because they think they found a clue to the disappearance of their son. And I'm going to leave it there. This book, like I said, is brilliant. I don't want to spoil it too much. It has a really nice supernatural fantasy theme to it. And I'm really not really fussed about fantasy at all. I like it. But I don't go out of my way to read anything, or, it just, sometimes it can be a bit like, oh, right, whatever. But this is perfectly done, really done well. The story is brilliant. Like I said, the first, up until you get to this scene where they're in the police station trying to sort of, they've been called in and things are a bit sort of what's going to happen next. Well, it does lead on. You do find out in this issue. It gives you a really nice chunk of everything. And it leaves you wanting more. But sorry, I've gone off point a bit there. The pacing of the build up to this scene is perfectly done, but they cram so much in. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of things going on. It conveys the emotion perfectly as well, so you understand the mental states of the characters. You understand what the characters like. There's a lot of development there, and there's a lot of things for you to sort of like or dislike about them. So in that sense, before you've even got to the part where you're going to find out what's happened next, you're already invested in what's happening,
Yeah, you care about them.
Yeah, you care about them. And, in particular, the father, where he's, you don't know if he's being falsely accused. Obviously, you don't know what goes on.
Oh, so you don't know anything about, okay.
Well, you find out, but you know, with anything, you take on face value. On the face of things, you don't see him killing his son, but you don't know how the story's going to go. But from the way the character is, you can tell he's innocent. You know, his life is falling apart. If he was really guilty of this murder, something would have shown by now. But you definitely get a sense of his innocence, and the mum obviously blaming the father because didn't look after him or didn't watch him, or, you know, whatever she's trying to do to try and cope with the fact that her son's missing. And the older brother who's neglected, you know, the bit of it reminded me a little bit of specifically the film Stand By Me. The scene where Gordy is talking to his father, and he's too fixated on his older brother who passed away. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Stand By Me. But the film is older than me, so, you know, you should have watched it by now. And it's sort of reminiscent of that whole, the child left behind is kind of too much of a reminder of what they've lost. So it's difficult to cope with it. So there's all this stuff going on. It happens very, very quickly. And then the tone of the comic changes quite significantly, and then it changes quite significantly again, but it does it so well. I just really, really enjoyed it. I was quite surprised. The like I said, the writing perfectly done. The art's really good. It has that real nice balance of, and I think the colour has a part to play in this. Actually, I'll find out who the colourist is. It has this really nice balance of suburban America, and then when it gets a bit more into the fantasy of the story, that kind of fantasy of colours and, you know, exotic beasts and all sorts of weird and wonderful things, which, you know, it's rare because usually you only see an art style that suits one or the other. Yeah. Whereas this has it just works very nicely in both kind of areas of the story. The colorist is Andrei Lucas.
Yep, I don't know that name.
Oh, Adriano
Lucas?
Yeah, Adriano Lucas. Yeah.
And you like it?
Oh, yes, very much. Again, £1.99 in Comixology, or I'm sure you can pick up in your local comic book store, and I highly, highly recommend this. It's Birthright issue 1.
Comic I enjoyed the least, I think, cost me the most on Comixology. I'm unhappy.
Oh.
It's alright, it's fine. I'll get over it. I've already shaken it off, it's fine. It is not a problem at all. It's all good. We don't have a Spotlight book this week.
No Spotlight.
Sometimes we will do Spotlight books, but actually we've done 3 episodes now and only one of them has had a Spotlight, so I probably shouldn't be... I should be managing people's expectations better by not mentioning the Spotlights at all. So now they feel like they're missing something, but they didn't know that they were missing something.
But they haven't missed anything because there wasn't one.
No. They haven't... They're missing nothing.
They're missing nothing.
Really?
No.
Spotlights aren't normally very good.
Oh, you're doing this whole thing where you lower their expectations.
I'm lowering their expectations.
Or managing their expectations.
Managed expectations are low expectations if you're doing your job properly.
That's true.
I think. You do that thing that Scotty always did in Star Trek, which was he always deliberately gave Captain Kirk a really long deadline on something, because after the first time of Captain Kirk saying, "We need more power to thrusters," and him saying, "I cannot do it, Captain, it's going to take at least an hour," he realised that Kirk always halves everything that he says. So now he later on he just deliberately gave Kirk a double the amount of time he needed, so that Kirk could say, "I need it in half the time," and he'd get it. You understand the concept. You work in an office.
Yes, I understand the concept. That's the bit, and that's our approach to Spotlights.
Yes, it's our approach to Spotlights, and it's my approach to all of my relationships as well. If you make sure people don't expect very much, you can only ever pleasantly surprise them, unless you're married to them, but that's a whole different story. That's us, I think, Jane. I think it's time for us to go. We did that thing of talking for ages before we started recording, but it's okay because we didn't have that many comics to talk about this week. We'll be back next week to talk about more comics. You might be listening to this at some point in the future, though, listener. So you might have just listened to the last episode, the second episode, and then you quickly listen to this one, and you might already be moving on to the next episode in a minute. So we'll either be back next week, or we'll be back in a minute, or, you know, you might let them all build up and wait about a month to listen to them. I don't know. Podcasts are asynchronous. You can listen to them at any point you want. That's the point I'm getting at. You might not have realised that about podcasts. Consider that a life lesson that you just got for free. I don't know why I'm giving them so much shit.
I don't know.
I feel like I'm being really mean now. We should
he's
go.
Grateful. He is
I am.
Grateful.
I'm really, really
he looks
grateful.
Yeah, we should go.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We are really... This isn't interesting to anyone except Jane works in a bureaucratic behemoth as well, so she might understand this. We have a catering department here at work. We're recording at the studios where I work, and we have a catering... we outsource catering and our refectories and everything, because that's how things happen now. And recently, like in the last year, when our catering department does sandwiches for a meeting, for one of the hundreds of meetings we have here, they bring a tray and it's got loads of sandwiches. And I guess maybe they started having problems with the trays going back to people's offices full of sandwiches after meetings and not coming back. So they've introduced a charge to, a charge to whoever set up the meeting when, the tray doesn't go back to them. And we've had a tray in our office for about 2 weeks. And people keep going in there, including like the managers in our office, keep going in there, looking at it, announcing loudly, oh, we should probably do something about that, otherwise we're going to end up getting charged. And then just walking away. And
yeah, that's weird. I don't know why people do that. Just pick it up and take it back, honestly. Just do it. Then you don't have to worry about it.
It is just, but it's bizarre because it's like everyone at this point has noticed it, but no one really knows what to, and I can't do anything about it because I don't even know where it needs to go back to. I make it very much my job not to interfere with things that I will only mess up. And among those things are anything to do with estates, anything to do with catering. If it's the expenses system, I'll just not do anything that requires expenses because I will only mess those things up. Those are line managers' jobs to sort out on my behalf. That's what I reckon. I don't think I'm a very good member of staff. We don't need to talk about James not being here. At this point, I'm pretty sure the listener thinks we made him up.
Yeah. Maybe we did.
No one will ever know.
Maybe it's just us doing his voice all along.
There is no way anyone can ever check or verify it. Yeah, so I'm just gonna... This is just to you, Jane. I'm just gonna have a look at the levels again. I don't know what's going on, but I seem to be popping... Well, not popping, but I seem to be going blah, blah. Now if you say something.
Blah.
Yeah, you're fine. I think, hang on. Edit. Trim. I wonder what's going on there. I don't know. It's fine. It's okay. What's happened is the technology is much... Well, it's kind of exactly the same as it was before, but they've shown me how to do cleverer stuff. And now I think I've outstripped my ability to actually...
Control
function.
your cleverness with the computer.